Hello, welcome back to Market Monday. It has been a hot minute since I have done a market update, and a lot is happening. The market is changing, and I have some pretty important things to tell you as homeowners, buyers, sellers, people of the earth, whoever you are. I feel like this important is valuable for you. So I'm going to be covering four main topics today. First, we're going to be looking at home price appreciation, the history of the past few years, what it's potentially looking like going forward. Second, we're going to talk about forecasts for we're going to be talking about fourth quarter forecasts for the housing market. Third, we are talking interest rates for mortgages and what is coming, what to expect. And finally, we're going to be going to some very hyper-local statistics for the Cedar Rapids area. Okay, so home appreciation. We all are aware that home prices have gone up significantly in the past year and a half, right? We've seen a ton of appreciation, a ton of equity growth, and here are some numbers based on the July 2020 to July 2020, the July 2021 year-over-year appreciation. These are national statistics. So if we look, the average home has appreciated anywhere between 18 and 19.7% from last July to this past July. What? That is insane. That's in 1 year. Obviously, we know that a lot of that is based on supply and demand. So there's been tons of demand for more housing in every direction. So regardless of the location, type, and price range of the home, there's been huge demand for housing. A lot of that has been influenced by the lack of new built homes in the past 10 years. So our amount of housing is not growing with our population. The pandemic obviously affected the housing market because a lot more people needed larger homes to stay at for longer periods of time. So 19% appreciation is insane. The average year appreciation in a regular market, not last year, but what we can typically expect in 1 year a home to appreciate is only 3.8%. Okay, let's break it down per state. Obviously, Iowa was not as hot as some of the other markets in our country. The highest actually surprised me, which was Idaho, appreciating at 37.1% in the past year. People were moving there for sure. Obviously, places like the West Coast and East Coast appreciated more than Central America. But in Iowa, we had the average appreciation of 11.5% over that year from last July to this July. So that's still incredible. Now, here's where some people might get scared if they are misinformed. This quote from Ivy Zellman at Zellman & Associates says, closings are set to decline roughly 10% year over year in the second half of 2021, and home price appreciation is on the cusp of flipping to a decelerating trend. Now, if you don't quite understand that, you might think that, oh no, the market's flipping, home prices are going to go down. I bought my house this summer and next summer it's not going to be worth nearly as much. No, hold the phones. That is not what this means. There's a huge difference between depreciation and deceleration. So let's talk about that. Okay, so this past year we had amazing, incredible, never before seen appreciation in homes across the country, with an average of that 19% appreciation from July of 2020 to July of 2021. Now for the rest of 2020, we're seeing this year over year appreciation being forecasted at 11.7%. So while 11% appreciation per year is not as much as 19, it's still exceptionally high. As we move forward into the upcoming years, we're seeing that number go down. So the appreciation go down. 2022 is 5.82 projected, 3.94, and then getting down into those 3% a year, which is typical from December to December of the upcoming years. But remember, that's still appreciation in value of a home, okay? It's not going down in value. It is going to continue to gain value as we move forward over the next few years, but that value is not going to appreciate at quite the high accelerated rate that we have seen. Does that make sense? So again, depreciation does not equal deceleration. We are going into a period of time of deceleration. Here's why this is so exciting. Not the deceleration part, but here's why this continued appreciation is going to be so exciting. If you look at this chart, again, we see the forecasted home value change for the rest of 2021 year over year. So December to December, 11.74%. Incredible, right? The annual average over the next 5 years from what we saw in the last slide is still sitting at 5.7% per year if we average it out. So that's, again, greater than the normal average appreciation per year. What is amazing about this is that in 5 years, the cumulative through 2025, the average home will have appreciated over the next 5 years by over 30%. So when people are scared that their home is going to go down in value over the next few years, you can see from these forecasts by market experts and economic analysis that that's just not going to happen. Okay, now we're moving on to our second point, which is forecasting for the future home sales in the upcoming fourth quarter of 2021. When we look at home sales, obviously the past year has been anything but normal. So that changes how experts are going to forecast the upcoming fourth quarter because of our lack of consistent information in the past few years. So if we look at this blue line here, that is representing home sales in 2019, which has been considered one of the best years of home sales nationally that we've had up to that point. Obviously 2020 hit, and you can see the extreme change that brought with that orange line dipping way down into May and June and then popping way up. So we had a heck of a lot less sales during a portion of 2020, but then almost doubling those sales in the end of 2020. So when we look at 2021, that green line, where is that going to go? This is another place where if you are misinformed, it's easy to get depressed or skewed about your idea of what's going to happen with the housing market. So while, we can expect that things aren't going to be quite as lucrative in the end of 2021 as they were in the end of 2020, because so many people put off purchasing and selling homes during the beginning of 2020, in the middle of 2020. So the end was super hot. That has chilled off a bit, right? So it might not be as hot as that, but it is still going to be a hot market more than 2019, most likely. So we can kind of expect that green line, that number of home sales to sit sort of in the middle of between 2019 and 2020. So yeah, if you're going out this fall, winter looking for a home, you aren't going to see the highly competitive market of last year, but you're still going to see more homes for sale, more homes selling than you did in previous years. Okay, let's talk about mortgage rates because your girl's excited. All right. Let's look back a minute. We have seen some crazy low interest rates, historically low interest rates over the past 18 months. We are starting to have some inflation of those interest rates. And some people might not quite notice that because they're still so low. This chart goes back all the way to 2018, where the average interest rate at the beginning of that year was sitting around 4%, then went up to almost 5%, and then fell very far down to, high twos, middle twos in 2020 and 2021. Now we are seeing a slight climb in those interest rates, but they are still fairly low. The average interest rate nationally right now is 3.01%. And here in the Cedar Rapids area, the latest information I got was just right around there as well at 3%. 3.0%. So where are these interest rates going? What can we expect for the future? This is vital information. Obviously, if you are a buyer, that's very clear. You want a low interest rate so that you can get approved for a higher mortgage. But for sellers, this is also very important, knowing what buyers have available to them to know who your home is affordable for and who is looking for your home in its price range. You also want those low interest rates so that more people can afford your specific home. Interest rates are not going to jump up astronomically very quickly. Experts are projecting that they're going to rise slowly over the next few years. So you can see here that, Q4, they could rise up to 3.4%. Next year, starting into 3.5, 3.6, 3.7. And so if we look a little bit farther into this chart here, we can see from the different sources nationally that the average mortgage rate projection is going to end up somewhere around 3.5% by this time next year. Now, I've had a lot of people tell me in the past few months that they are going to wait to purchase a home until the market slows down, until it's not as hot, until home prices go down, there's less competition. Girl, listen to the statistics and the facts, because here's the situation right now, okay? If you think that you want to wait until we're not at the top of the market, you are misinformed, because we are not there yet. Depending on how you look at this, we are not there yet. We know that home prices have appreciated a lot, but they are going to continue to appreciate. They're still going up. They're not going down. No source is telling us that home prices will go down in the future. Okay? So let point number one, let that sink in. Number two, interest rates are also going to be going up in the near future. We also know this from very reliable sources. So as a buyer, if you expect that things are going to get more affordable, cheaper, I don't know what you're, but that is not what these statistics are telling us. The cost of waiting is greater than the cost of buying now. Does this make sense? Let's take a look at another graph. Okay, I'm very sorry. This is so much more boring in the background, but there was a glare, so we're going to go with blinds. Let's look at this chart. If we think that the average, we know that the average interest rate nationally right now for a mortgage is about 3%. Okay, so let's go with that. A $400,000 house would give you a home loan monthly payment, principal and interest only, of $1,686. This is based on a 30-year fixed mortgage, okay? So $1,686 monthly payment there at a $400,000 house. Say that interest rate goes up to 3.5%. Now, when a mortgage lender approves you for a certain amount, they're not necessarily approving you based on the total house value that you can afford, but that monthly payment. Obviously, the monthly payment determines how much house you can afford, but they're looking at your monthly debt to income ratio to determine how much you can afford to pay per month in your payments. So that's the number that we need to be aware of when looking at this chart. So if you're approved for about a $1,600 payment each month, if we look at that at a 3% mortgage rate, that's a $400,000 house. But if that is a 3.5% interest rate, you're looking now at maybe a 360, slightly above a $360,000 house. That's a different house, my friends. Now, if that interest rate bumps up even more, say to that 4%, now you're looking at a house that is only $340,000. Again, a completely different house. And this isn't taking into account the home appreciation that we're going to see in the next year. So that $400,000 house now that you can afford might be $420,000 next year, which even if the interest rate stayed the same, you couldn't afford that house next year. And now the interest rate is changing, so you can afford even less. So that house that's, Does that make sense? So there's two factors working simultaneously to affect your affordability, the home affordability, what you can afford. Okay. 2 points before I move on, because I'm very passionate about this. One is for sellers. If you are a homeowner right now, your home is going to greatly appreciate in value over the next few years, and you are in for some big bamboozling bucks, okay? If you are a buyer right now, the value of you getting into a home and start earning that equity now and banking on the next 5 years of home ownership will also get you a lot of equity. Okay. And also, if you wait, you're going to miss out on that and not be able to afford as much as you can right now. Okay. One more thing. This chart just shows that a home that is $350, worth about $350 in January 2021, by January of 2026 would be worth $461,000. So just a little thought. All right, let's talk hyper-local market statistics. This information is specifically for the Cedar Rapids area. So that includes Marion, Hiawatha, Robbins, and all 4 quadrants of Cedar Rapids for residential properties, only including condos and single-family homes, not land and not multifamily units, because those are just a different beast. So I want to look at homes for people. Here's what we got going on. This chart can be a little confusing, but what we are looking at is number of homes for sale, sold, and pended over the last year. So beginning of the chart is July of 2020. We're looking at about 430 homes for sale. We hit the lowest inventory locally in January and February of 2021. Obviously, we can see that, and that started a trend of this year there being more pended sales than there were homes for sale or being sold. What that means is that there are more transactions in between the time of being under contract and going to closing than there are actual homes available. So they're selling quicker than they can stay on the market. We are also seeing that dark green number way higher than the light green number. The dark green one is number of homes sold, while the light green is number of homes for sale. So we're seeing, again, this huge demand, very low supply continuing through the year, and eventually those lines are starting to merge a little closer together. What's really exciting is in the past month, only just in September of this year, did we cross the boundary from number of homes for sale being higher than those that have sold. And that pending transaction is coming down to be equal with the number of homes sold as well. Let's talk days on the market. For September, it finished out with the average days on the market being 16 for our local area, and the average original list price to sale price was still at 100%. So homes are still selling for around what they are listed for, sometimes over, sometimes under, but it's not quite as high as the summer when the average was selling for 103% of its list to sale list price. So that's coming down a little bit to be more just right around 100, which is still very, very high. And finally, inventory, a little bit of a better representation of that as well. These are the months of inventory based on closed sales. So again, months of inventory means if the current homes for sale were all that we had and no other homes went up for sale, how many months would it take for all the homes to be sold with the demand of buyers we have currently? They are just tipping back up into the 1% range. We have been sitting above the 1 month supply range. We've been sitting below 1 month of supply for the entire year. It's been very, very low. So that is good. We're seeing more supply coming into the market. What is for sale currently, you might be asking? Well, there are 275 single-family homes in our area, Hiawatha, Robbins, Cedar Rapids, and Marion, and there are 82 condos currently for sale. That's, that is all for Market Monday. Thank you for sticking with me. I know it was a long one, but it is so exciting and important, and I could talk about this for a much longer time, but I'm not going to. Have an amazing day, and I will see you on Thursday for another episode of Home Horrors.